Okay, so we've all heard of Don Quixote, right? The guy who tilted at windmills. But what if I told you the story of the man who invented him is even wilder? This isn't just about a famous book. It's about the unbelievable, real-life adventure that became the foundation for a masterpiece.
Yeah, that opening line, it's just legendary, isn't it? But here's the thing. As famous as the knight's adventures are, the life of the guy who wrote those words, Miguel de Cervantes, it was just, wow, way more dramatic, way more heroic, and honestly, a lot more unbelievable.
I mean, his life was a genuine epic. We're talking battlefields, slave markets, debtors' prisons, all the way to literary immortality. The highs were incredible, and the lows were just devastating. And that's what we're going to get into, exactly how all those experiences came together to create the world's very first modern novel. So who was the real Cervantes? Well, first things first, we've got to cut through some of the noise. Over the centuries, his life has gotten wrapped up in all these myths. But the truth? The truth of what he actually went through is so much more powerful than any of the made-up stuff. And get this, the reality just completely blows the myths out of the water. For years, biographers have had to fight their own quixotic battle against these rumors. People said he was a pimp, or a stutterer, or a university grad. Nope, the real Cervantes was a war hero, a poet, a man who survived 5 years as a slave. His actual life didn't need any extra drama added to it. Yeah, his epic story doesn't start in some quiet library. It starts on the battlefield. In his early 20s, Cervantes basically puts down the pen, picks up a sword, and enlists in the Spanish military. He dives right into the middle of this massive global conflict. And his life just immediately gets defined by these huge, extreme events. He enlists in 1570, right? Just 1 year later, he's in the thick of it at the Battle of Lepanto. I mean, one of the most important naval battles in history. But his journey home from that war, that's when things take an even crazier turn. So at the Battle of Lepanto, he's actually sick with a fever, and his commanders tell him to stay below deck. But Cervantes? No way. He refuses. He insists on commanding this small boat right in the heat of the fight. And for his trouble, he takes 3 serious gunshot wounds, 2 to the chest and a third one. Well, that third one would change his life forever. That third wound, it completely maimed his left hand, made it useless for the rest of his life. But you know what? Cervantes didn't see it as a disability at all. He saw it as a mark of honor, something he earned for the glory of the right. He carried that nickname, El Manco de Lepanto, the one-handed man of Lepanto, with incredible pride for the rest of his days. But believe it or not, his trials were just getting started. After a few more years of military service, a decorated Cervantes finally set sail for Spain in 1575. He's even carrying official letters of commendation for his bravery. He was supposed to be going home a hero. He never made it. His ship gets captured by Barbary corsairs, and he's dragged off to Algiers and sold into slavery. For 5 long years, he's in brutal captivity. But his spirit, absolutely unbreakable. He organizes and leads 4 different, daring, large-scale escape attempts. In fact, his captors thought he was so dangerous and valuable, they couldn't even risk killing him. He was finally ransomed in 1580 and got back to Spain. So, Cervantes comes back to Spain. He's 33 years old, a war hero, a survivor. You'd think, right, that his country would welcome him with parades and opportunity. You would be totally wrong. In a lot of ways, his biggest struggles were still to come. Yeah, the Spain he came back to, it didn't have much for him. The powerful people who supported him, they were dead. So he's forced to take these really thankless government jobs, first as a supply guy for the Spanish Armada, and later as a tax collector. And it turns out, he was not great with money. He gets accused of mismanagement, and this celebrated war hero finds himself thrown into a debtor's prison. And it was right here, at his absolute rock bottom, a forgotten hero, locked up over money troubles, that his greatest idea finally comes to him. The story goes that in this very prison, Cervantes dreams up a tale about an old nobleman who's read so many books about knights and chivalry that he kind of loses his mind. And right out of that dark, desperate prison cell, this work of pure, comic, and just profound genius is born. A story that wouldn't just define Spanish literature, but would literally change the course of the novel forever. He created this cast of characters that are just unforgettable, right? You've got the noble but totally deluded Don Quixote, his loyal, down-to-earth, and hilarious squire, Sancho Panza. his beat-up old horse Rocinante, and his imagined love, the peerless Dulcinea. On the surface, it looked like a simple parody of old romance novels, but it turned out to be so much more. Part 1 comes out in 1605, and it is an instant, runaway smash hit. It becomes the world's very first bestseller, eventually getting translated into more than 60 languages. It was so popular that some other writer published a fake sequel. So Cervantes responds by writing the official Part 2 in 1615, and a lot of critics think the second part is even better, even more brilliant than the first. The book's incredible popularity totally cemented his place in history. But here's the kicker. In an age before modern royalties, it never actually made him a rich man. It did, however, give him something way more valuable than money. Cervantes died just a year after publishing Part 2 of his masterpiece. He died poor and was buried in an unmarked grave. I mean, they only recently found his remains and reburied them in Madrid. But his creation, his book, it gave him true immortality. It influenced centuries of writers and thinkers who came after him. Today, he's right at the heart of the Western literary canon. The great author Carlos Fuentes put him in a direct line with giants like Homer and Shakespeare. I mean, the Spanish language itself is still often called the language of Cervantes. That's how big his impact was. And so that leaves us with this question, one that's at the core of both Don Quixote's quest and the incredible life of the man who created him. Where does that line between idealism and madness really lie? Was Cervantes, this man who fought his own real-life windmills, crazy for holding on to his ideals through war, slavery, and poverty? Or was that the very thing that made him a genius?